AstroEDU, which is a platform for astronomy education resources, and he also created the science comic book series, Ada's Adventures in Science. And as you can see, Edward really knows how to engage people even in the most like complicated scientific subjects. And today maybe he might share some of his secrets how to do it with us, which might be actually beneficial for all the groups and for all the projects. And after the talk, we would have the Q&A session as we always do. So like make sure that you prepare any questions or like thoughts to share with Edward after his talk. And yeah, I think that's it. So Edward, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Martina. That was a lovely introduction, and I'm extremely honoured to have been asked to speak to you today. I'm currently in the rainy city of Cardiff in Wales in the United Kingdom. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. So creating educational projects with robotic tools. So this is me. I'm Edward Gomez, as Martina said. I'm an astrophysicist. I'm an educator. I'm a coder, and I write a lot of software in Python, but also in JavaScript and HTML. I love hacking Internet of Things devices, and my house is stuffed full of them. I'm a musician. I love early music, so music that was earlier than the Baroque period. I play the lute, and I love telling stories. I love writing stories, and I love telling stories as well. I'm, as well as being the education director for Las Cumbres Observatory, I'm also the vice president of the International Astronomical Union's Division for Education, Outreach and Heritage. But to start off with, I would like to get a better idea about who you are. So if you can go to menti.com and type in those numbers, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch. So I'm going to stop sharing and share a different screen. And don't worry, those numbers will come back. Okay, so if right across the top, hopefully you can see menti.com and then put those numbers in and tell me roughly if you fall into those very broad areas. That's really good to see that there's a nice mix of people. I was extremely worried that everybody was going to be in the business category and my talk would be completely meaningless. Just wait a couple of extra minutes, give everybody a chance to vote. That's about half the people on the call who voted. It's really great to see that there's a good split between designers, artists, scientists, and education specialists. Any more for any more? Don't be shy. I'm not going to identify each of you according to these different categories. Okay, I think that's probably all that we're going to get now. So it's really nice to see that there are design and art people, because it's actually some of the best projects that I've been involved with, and Ada's Adventures in Science is one of the ones that Martina mentioned in her introduction, was a collaboration between a graphic designer, artist, friend of mine, and me. And it was an extremely fruitful experience. Obviously, collaborating with scientists and educators is what I spend most of my time doing as well. Right, let me flick back to the presentation. Oh, great, another artist there. Very good. So, creating educational projects with robotic tools. So this is me. Right. There we go. All right. So I want to talk about remote learning. And this is something that I've had a lot of experience of in many different ways. And because of the COVID-19 pandemic, there have been a huge amount of projects that were forced to use remote learning. Educational, and particularly in schools, a lot of schools were very unprepared for using remote learning and homeschooling. But I feel like remote learning could be done extremely well and could be of extreme importance and put to very good use in different contexts in Ukraine. So I'm going to focus on remote learning, what we can learn, and projects that I've been involved with that use aspects of remote learning. So what I'll talk about in the first part is a little bit about a report that was published by Ofsted, which is an ombudsman, like a regulator for education in the UK, actually in England, not actually in my home nation of Wales. And they surveyed 1,000 teachers. And here are some of the negative impacts that remote learning had. And then I'll talk about a few of the positives. So the negative impacts were difficulty aligning with the school curriculum. This makes perfect sense because people were thrown into the pandemic without any warning, and they were sort of scrabbling around trying to teach enough so that students could be examined. And then it was very, very, very challenging. I have twin 5-year-olds who are going to be 6 in a few weeks. It's extremely challenging to do remote learning with younger age groups. It's not impossible though. You can do it. And actually one of the projects that I'll talk about is particularly addressing that problem. So it is challenging for younger age groups, but it is possible. Students lack focus. Actually, about nearly half of the parents that were surveyed in this said that this was a major problem, that their students lacked focus, just staring at a screen all the time, and having Zoom classes, because a lot of teachers just took lessons into a Zoom classroom, and really that was not terribly engaging. Having a device doesn't guarantee access to remote learning. I found this myself with my kids. They were expected to do home learning, and I wasn't going to let them use my computer, my work computer. So we tried doing it on a tablet, and it just didn't work. The things that they were expecting them to do just didn't work on our tablet. So that's something to bear in mind if you're thinking of creating an educational resource that could be used in home learning, that having a device doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be able to use it for your project. Hybrid, so doing in-person and remote learning mixed, is extremely stressful for teachers, and it really affects the teacher well-being. And so that's something to bear in mind when you're creating activities. And finally, there's a bigger negative impact on pupils with special educational needs and disabilities. 60% of the parents of those children said that they were just completely disengaged, and fewer than half of the teachers said that their school offered no additional remote learning provision for those pupils. So these are students with autism, with ADHD, and those students found it particularly hard to access remote learning. So those are the negative impacts. But there are benefits to remote learning. The first one is freedom. But it's also the most nerve-wracking for teachers, because when you have ultimate freedom, you have the ability to go in any direction, and that's quite overwhelming, particularly for teachers who are time poor. They have extreme pressures on their time, and that's why a lot of teachers want to use things in the classroom that they've used before. Younger teachers actually tend to be more experimental in their teaching. But remote learning provides this freedom, not only for the content creators, and I hope many of you will think of yourselves as content creators, but also for the teachers to sort of unburden themselves from traditional teaching methods, to explore new things. And actually the pandemic allowed them to ignore the curriculum a little bit. And I'm hoping that the same is true in Ukraine, that teachers will want to explore new methods of teaching in remote ways. It also means that shy students more fully engage. Students that would normally not want to show themselves up in front of a large class are actually happy to contribute when it's on a more level playing field of remote learning. And that doesn't necessarily mean like we're doing now on Zoom, where you're looking through a camera, you're looking at me through a camera. It can be on online forums, it can be online learning platforms, but there's an independence, an ownership, and a self-discipline that comes with this freedom. And those are important qualities for young people today. And so that's why I think that remote learning can be extremely powerful. It also allows you to be creative and innovative. As resource and content creators, you can create something new. You don't just have to do what somebody else has done before. There are many learning portals. I've just shown screen grabs of 3 here. The first one, or the one in the bottom left, is the Zooniverse project, which is a citizen science portal. You don't need to create a learning platform. Actually, the Zooniverse allows you to create your own project, citizen science project, but a project in their project builder. The world doesn't need more platforms. There are many European Commission funded programs that are to create online platforms like this. And so there are lots already. So the best projects and the best educational projects are ones which cherry pick the best elements of these platforms, resources, and educational content. And they put them together in a coherent way. So it might be a tool from one, it might be an educational script from another, and putting them together with your own content, that can really help you to excel. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our mentee and ask for your opinion again. Bear with me while I find the screen. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. And if I do that, yes. Okay. So please answer this as honestly as possible. I will not be offended if you say that you do not like space and astronomy. Oh, wow. That's really good. Very enthusiastic. Love it. Okay, so 10 was the, I think we had 11 last time. So if a few more people want to answer, that would be wonderful. Any more for any more? Great, thank you. Last few seconds to answer. Okay, I think that may be all that we've got going to answer. Thank you for those responses. Another person, okay. So how much do you like space and astronomy? So we've got, so the score is out of 5. So we've got more people agree with that than disagree, which is good. Hopefully people were scoring on that end. But the majority of you want to make an educational project, which I'm ecstatic about. I'm really happy about that. And a lot of you have experience with educational projects, again, which again is fantastic. Thank you. Right, let's go back to presentation. Apologies for switching screens. There was really no good way of doing that. There we go. So so there were, I think it was just over halfway on the do you like space and astronomy. I had 3.5 out of 5. Hopefully in what I'll talk about now, I may convert some of you to strongly agree, but that's not my goal at all. With educational projects, a lot of what we want is to develop some program that in the end is going to be inspirational. And I'm a little bit biased, but hopefully you'll agree when you say astronomy has the huge potential to be inspirational. This is a picture that I took of the Andromeda galaxy. So it's the closest spiral galaxy to our own galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. And just looking at that image, I showed this actually to a class of 9 and 10-year-olds 2 weeks ago, and they were just showed that image and they were astounded by it, because this is the type of image that they could take themselves using the robotic telescopes that I manage. And the picture itself is, I think, beautiful, but the idea that they could take that data themselves, that really sparked their interests. And we have a variety of tools, and I'll show one of them to you later that we've developed. But I really hope in the Q&A and actually in the time that follows afterwards, I would love to hear ideas for ways that you could use telescopes in an inspirational, educational way. But astronomy isn't all about pictures. So this is a pretty terrible looking picture, and I combined it with a lot of pretty terrible looking pictures into an animation. This is an asteroid called 2012 DA14. Back 10 years ago now, actually, the 15th of February 2013, it passed in between. So asteroids are normally out in the asteroid belt, aren't they? That's why it's called the asteroid belt. They're normally out in the asteroid belt, which is between Mars and Jupiter, except when they're not. And actually there's quite a lot which aren't. And one of the things I do in my day job as an astronomer is track these asteroids that are not in the asteroid belt. This one is moving extremely fast, and it passed in between the Earth and the Moon. It passed about 1/10 of the distance between the Earth and the Moon, which sounds alarmingly close. And it's actually 27,000 kilometers. So it's actually not that close at all. None of our satellites would have been hit by it, and nothing had remotely had any danger. But still, that story is something that you can use to capture imagination and provide a hook for which students can get enthused about the idea of taking data points. And further to that, this is this is the other extreme. This is now this is a light curve for a planet that's going around a star that's not our sun. So this is somewhere in our galaxy, and the way that the way astronomers found this planet was by noticing that the star dimmed very slightly in a very regular way. And this is a plot of the star dimming. I wonder if this works. Is it? Can you see my pointer? So, so the star would normally have been constant like that if there was no planet. And then for a brief time period, so we've got time along the bottom and brightness along here. I'm fully aware that I'm that you might not be comfortable reading graphs. But this provides another layer of inspiration where students can take this data themselves, they can analyze this data, and they have a real sense of achievement, not only in producing something like this, which is publication quality, but they can also, they've also learned a huge number of transferable skills along the way. So any one of those three slides can be inspirational with the right backstory and what we call educational scaffolding behind it. So I'm going to talk to you about two projects that I've been involved with, hopefully to motivate you to think about all the possibilities out there. This cute little robot called Cyril. I mentioned that I'm from Wales, which is a small nation, a part of the United Kingdom. And Cyril in the Welsh language means star-like, but it's also an acronym for scheduling efficiently and robotically on Las Cumbres Observatory. And I'll also talk about another program called the Global Sky Partners. So I'll start off with Cyril's Cosmic Explorers. This started off as an intern project. And I had an intern who was extremely good at graphic design and developed this beautiful little robot. And we thought, oh, well, maybe we can do more with that. So I hired some more interns a year later, and they came up with a whole suite of educational activities using robotic telescopes. So the idea behind Cyril is the brain behind Las Cumbres Observatory. Las Cumbres Observatory has 25 telescopes, and Cyril is the brain and in some ways the heart of the observatory. Cyril takes observations and puts them on telescopes all around the world, which sounds like an extremely complex process until you put a friendly face on it like Cyril. And we developed a website which has a series of interactive challenges, all of which have the goal of getting students to take images with the robotic telescopes within a few clicks, but not to be concerned with the mechanics of taking the observation, to be concerned with the mechanics of doing science. So the observation that they take is done with a single click. They choose their object, they click, Cyril goes off and takes it in a period of normally a couple of days, and then they do analysis on the image. And very simple analysis, because this is for students who are 10 and up. So the analysis they do is normally just looking at the image and answering some questions on it. But we were fortunate to have a variety of extremely talented interns over the years, and they added to this project with educational videos, classroom resources, and also a computer game. How it works is that there are missions, and each mission acquaints the student with different types of astronomical object. So they're learning while they're doing this, and they're finding out more about different types of astronomical objects. They make observations, as I said, in a very simplistic way, highly simplified way. So it's not, they don't have to learn about telescopes in that instance. Really, it's a starting point, but they can in the future. And each time they complete their challenge, they earn a badge. I wanted to show you just a short video, which is from the very first video, which sort of motivates the whole Cyril's Cosmic Explorers.
The night goes on and Cyril's team are hard at work. As one telescope closes for the day, another wakes up and takes over. More pictures flow in until Cyril grows confident it knows what the mystery object is. The survey telescope has spotted an asteroid. Asteroids are chunks of ice, rock and metal left over from when the planets in our solar system formed.
So you can see from this that there's, as well as being animated and quite attractive, and that was done entirely by interns, it also has science behind it. And there's just a screen grab of a few screen grabs of the website there. An example of the questions that the students are asked, what color are the stars, and about the picture. So that's their analysis of it, and then they get their badge or their sticker at the end. And we also have this rather fun video game as well that you can play. So it's an example of one self-contained project. Now I want to talk to you about Global Sky Partners. I was faced with a problem. There's a huge potential. As I said, we have 25 telescopes. They're all robotic. They all go about their business without needing much human intervention. And CERL puts all the requests from astronomers, school kids, amateur astronomers onto the telescopes around the world, rescheduling and reshuffling according to whether there's an engineering problem, the bad weather, or the sky looks great. I came up with the idea of Global Sky Partners to create a sustainable and scalable high quality education program using these telescopes, because I was fully aware that I couldn't do this myself. There's me and one part-time person on the education team. To have the ability to have an impact on hopefully many thousands of people, we needed to have some way of scaling it. So we partner with groups and organizations who provide fully supported educational projects. Some of these partners have extremely strong track records. Others just have a good idea and a ready-made audience, and they have a plan on how they're going to support that audience. And they all use our network of smaller telescopes. We have telescopes in 3 sizes, 40-centimeter telescopes, which are about the size of R2-D2, if you're familiar with Star Wars, and maybe you're not. So about the size of a wheelie bin. But they're still at professional observatory sites, and they've still got professional instrumentation on them. And professional astronomers use these for making discoveries. So we hand these over to education users. We also have telescopes all around the world. I've highlighted where all the 40-centimeter telescopes are there. So they're in 3 locations. The reason that we've got them distributed in the northern and southern hemispheres is because the stars are different. And the reason that we've got them spread out around the world is so that when the sun comes up on one site, the sun is going down on another site. And if you've got some exciting observations happening, you don't want to cut them off and wait another 12 hours or longer until your telescope is in darkness again. So we have this extremely rigorous and durable infrastructure, but we don't let the educators and the students worry about the mechanics of how all of that works. So in the last year, in 2020, we had 30 of these projects running. They had covered the broad areas of citizen science, teacher training, student research, artistic and inclusive outreach, and observing campaigns. So the observing campaigns are normally, there's a scientist who wants some observations of a particular target, and then the students go off and they get all these observations, and then they all work together to do the analysis. I'll tell you some about some of the stories of these, and hopefully that will motivate you with some ideas on what you could do, particularly if you've got an education background and you have ideas about things that you could do with an astronomy club or an artistic project. And so I'll start off with Brazil 1000. This is a program that is still running, and it's quite ambitious. It's sponsored by the Brazilian Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. And their aim is to introduce 1,000 teachers to astronomy using Las Cumbres Observatory. They use, we have another simplified interface called Kiosk, which again, like CERL, is a single click to get beautiful astronomical images without having to worry about the mechanics again of doing observations. These students started almost a year ago, and they already have 500 teachers in this program, and it's a 3-year program. Here are some of the school groups there showing their images on a poster display at there was actually the one in the top right corner. They won 42 medals at the Brazilian Astronomy and Astronautics Olympiad. And that was from starting this program with very little knowledge about astronomy. The top right is National Astronomy Week, where they're showcasing their work that they did with asteroids. And the bottom is a 5th grade elementary school, and which is in a rural area of Brazil that has never had any project like this before. So making a big impact on teachers and their students there. So we have quite a few of those teacher training, teacher workshop category partners. We have ones that are involved in student research. PASEA is a Global Sky partner that trains astronomers of the future, or scientists of the future. These are undergraduates in the whole of Africa. It used to only be sub-Saharan Africa, but now it's Pan-African. And they mentor the students who don't have an astronomy background, who are from universities that don't have any astronomy, to learn astronomy skills that are transferable, so data analysis skills, and they manipulate data, they analyze data, and then they publish their work. I've actually got a little snippet of one of the students here.
I've had a very deep interest in space right from childhood, and having to work and perform observations with real-life telescopes is a lifetime achievement for me, and I'm grateful and happy for this opportunity. I intend to make good use of this program to further my career and professional goals and hone my astronomical skills in order to create value and impact the knowledge on others.
With little experience in astronomy, I think this is a very great opportunity to join this program, and I feel great to be part of it, especially having to sit in one location and using this network of telescopes to observe the Milky Way in different time zones. It's really a rich experience that I'm happy to be part of.
We have several programs that are running similar projects that in different parts, particularly of the developing world. Next, I want to talk to you about a citizen science program called Exoplanet Watch. So exoplanets, as I said before, are planets that are going around stars that are not the sun. So stars out in the night sky, other stars in our Milky Way galaxy. It's run by the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena. So it's a NASA project. And what makes it a citizen science project is that everybody takes data, so they take images of exoplanets that this group, they have a list and they give you tutorials on how to take this data, and then they provide a code, a pipeline to analyze the data. Then the students upload their data into the NASA archive, and scientists then compile all of the observations of those different groups, some of which are amateur astronomers, some of which are school students. They combine all of that and they have a very good picture of the characteristics of this exoplanet. And that helps them to learn more about it. So it's a really, I'm actually extremely pleased that we have these citizen science programs involved with us, because it's a way where it provides a link between direct science for individuals without necessarily having a mentor that needs to tutor them through that. And we do have those programs as well. But there are a lot of students that are on their own and they take a project like this and they can just fly with it. That's just their website. Just two more of these that I want to show you, and then we'll be able to have some questions. I'm aware that I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry. Mission Platinum. It was a program that ran last year for the Platinum Jubilee of the Queen of the United Kingdom, Elizabeth II. And it was a partnership between the UK and India. A particular for Uttar Pradesh state in India. There are two phases. They had an observing phase where they had 25 schools taking observations with Las Cumbres Observatory, and 1,000 students were involved with that. The incredible thing is, normally I give a teacher training presentation or an orientation type thing on how to use LCO to a new group like this. And 25 teachers were there. It was 8 o'clock at night for them. So they'd had a hard day teaching. They all were present. They all were extremely excited to be involved. And normally after a training session like that, I say, right, here you go. You have some time to use on our network. Please go away. And, you know, I gave them tools on how to use it. I gave them tutorials on how to use the telescopes and take images. I said, please go ahead and do, you know, as much as you want, thinking that 5, maybe 6 of them would actually do it. Every single one of those 25 teachers took a picture, and over half of them took several hundred pictures. And by the end of so this was on a Friday, by Monday, our network was completely clogged. We had 10,000 observations being taken by these teachers, which is phenomenal. It's a record in itself. We've never handled so many observations. And it meant that poor Cyril was finding it extremely hard to put observations on telescopes. It was doing it as fast as it could, and it couldn't keep up at all. So that was phase 1. Phase 2 of this program was even bigger. This is a picture from phase 1. The organizers on the left-hand side, and with one of the schools that was involved and their teacher, some students from the school and their teacher, and 2 representatives from the British High Commission, the Deputy High Commissioner and my contact there. And then the students were really excited about astronomy. All of the students, 1,000 students, as I said, across those 25 schools, were really excited. All of the teachers then did astronomy workshops. You can see some of those there. But I want to draw your attention to the right-hand side. We then hosted the world's largest astronomy lesson. There were 7,000 students watching an astronomy lesson from 140 schools around the district in India. The images that the 25 schools had taken were showcased as part of that, and they had an astronomy talk by a world famous astronomer. It was really quite an amazing thing to be part of. And we managed to get the British High Commission to donate laptops to all of those 140 schools as well. So they had an ongoing legacy there from that. And finally, I wanted to mention this much smaller scale, the Appalachian Star Song Project. This was a project in a single school in the US, where the idea was that there was an astronomer who would teach students how to analyze astronomical data. And they plot a light curve, similar to the one that I showed you of that extrasolar planet earlier, but with a difference. They turn their light curve, and in this case, it was of a variable star. So similar to an exoplanet in that the brightness of the star is changing with time. They would sonify it. So they'd turn the data that they've got into music. So that's the raw data. And you can see that the student has put a 5-bar stave on there and has put some tails on the things denoting crotchets, and has given some annotations on there, and a beautiful cat with a crown on as well. And I can play it for you, hopefully. So really, this epitomizes my idea for franchising use of the telescopes out to groups who just have sometimes slightly crazy ideas. They don't need to have 7,000 students involved. They can just have 10 students involved, and they can only run for a couple of hours, but they can still produce something that is inspirational, educational, and ultimately beautiful. I'm going to show you some of the achievements of the program in the last year very quickly before I end. So the direct audience size of this program amongst all 30 partners across those 5 different areas was 21,500 individuals. That's far more than I could have ever hoped to do by myself if I'd been the main driver of all the education projects. And some of those programs were teacher training programs, and they reported that because they only reported the numbers of the teachers that they encountered, there's an indirect audience as well. The students that those teachers then had an inspiration, ran the program with, and were inspirational too. And the overall size, the direct plus indirect, is more like 100,000. That blows me away, the fact that that we could have that much impact. It's not all about numbers though. And as you've seen from that last musical one, it's very definitely not about numbers. But the numbers help when I ask for funding for this. We have a large geographic impact. And that was one of the key things that I didn't want this to be a US project. I didn't want it really to be just a European project. I wanted it to be a global project with countries that had knowledge of their locality, the specific educational requirements or the specific needs of their locality, and who were the experts in how to deliver top class content there. We provide those people with mentoring, support, and high quality educational use of our network. The demographics, and another key part of this program, is that we wanted it to have the most impact as possible. Like I said, that's not about numbers. We wanted it to impact people who wouldn't normally be given this type of opportunity, underrepresented communities or the developing world. I'm extremely pleased to say that over half of our audience is underrepresented or from the developing world, and others have a mixed representation. So these will be cities where there's impoverished regions or programs which are running where the students are from all sorts of backgrounds. The programs are also split 71% students and 19% teachers, which is also extremely good that there's so many students involved. Some other achievements, as well as I've said, the world's largest astronomy lesson. Lots of papers were published from student research, and these aren't only from undergraduates like the voices that you heard from the Paseo project, but quite a lot of these, the 17 actually papers that you can see there, were high school students publishing their work in peer-reviewed publications. We had over 90 papers published since the program began in 2017. And we've also had high school students presenting talks at professional conferences. So they're presenting their work at conferences with professional astronomers, which blows my mind. If I was a high school student, to have not only the confidence in my work, but in the confidence in my own abilities to present amongst my peers against other students. I don't think I would have, but to present their work to professional astronomers, it blows my mind, really. And one of our partners, Michelle Gibaldi, she received a medal from the International Astronomical Union for her work with our Global Sky partner. So these are examples of the papers. These are examples of workshops and posters and final reports, and because not all of the work that students did was for publication, it was just for coursework. It was for work that contributed to their student portfolio and was counted for their science courses. Every year I ask all of our participants to fill out a survey with these 3 questions. It's impossible for me to do a rigorous impact analysis because all of the programs are different, and but I do ask them to share these 3 questions. Do you agree? So it's a Likert scale, so it's from disagree to agree. And And 98% said that they can contribute to science after being involved in these programs. 97% said that they enjoy working on the science projects and would like to be involved in more in the future. And 94% said that they are confident in their ability to do science as a result of being part of this, which is more than I could ever really hope. If you want to find out more about the partners, you can have a look and browse through all the partner programs there. I'll put that link up again, but I want to give you a call to action. I would love to hear your ideas. You may have ideas now. You may want to just know more about the programs and how it works. You may have other ideas that aren't related to robotic telescopes that you think I can help with, and I'm more than happy to answer those questions too. But my call to action is that if you do have a program that you think might use robotic telescopes, I will give you 1 hour on LCO for the development of those projects. And I will mentor you in developing that project as well. So please do bear that in mind. So that's me, that's my contact details, and that's a link to the Global Sky Partners. And I'm going to finish it there so that hopefully we can have some time for discussion and questions. And apologies again that I was talking so much, but hopefully it's your turn now to talk, right? And hopefully you've noted down anything that you want to. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Edward, for this. We're very happy that actually we're talking, because that's why we invited you here. So it's really good that you kind of said something to us. So that's really, really great. And I think it was really inspiring. And thanks also for the very nice offer that you gave in the last slides. I think it's very tempting to use this opportunity. Yeah, are there any questions for Edward?
I have a question. First of all, I want to say thank you for your lecture and for this wonderful offer. And I have a question. What is the most important moment in involving these new people into the science projects? Like,
if you are you talking about if you wanted to create a project, what's the most significant thing that you would need to do? It's have a good idea about something to do, and it has to then have educational content. So you have to have goals and objectives, and you have to have a plan to support the students. You don't have to have all the answers. That's something that I can't stress enough, is that I've talked to a lot of teachers, and very often teachers are extremely worried about not knowing the answers and not being able to stand in front of their students and know that if a student asks them a question, they'll have the answer. One student said, one teacher actually said to me, "Oh, if I don't know the answer, I just lie." It's like, don't do that. Science is not about lies. Science is about saying, "Oh, that's a really interesting question. You know, I don't know that. Maybe we can find it together. Maybe you can find that out and tell everyone about it." So the three things are having goals and aims and objectives for the program, having a plan on how to support the students, and don't be afraid of the unexpected.
thank you very much.
Thanks for that. Well, Milena, I can see you raised the hand, so yeah.
Yeah. So actually I have a lot of questions, but I don't want to steal the time for the others. And thank you, Ed, for a great talk and actually great projects. And I must say, it's great to be here and could listen to your involvement, and also on all the stuff that LCO is doing. I have a question actually about like your approach to educators and teachers, because one thing is actually students and people who we want to involve into science, and the other thing is and that we know that for many cases we need like interested teacher or interested educator that can actually start this locomotive, right? So do you have any approach that you use for that, or any hint that we could maybe use for, yeah, for making the interest of teachers or educators higher in that sense?
Yeah, definitely. There's loads of different ways that you can go with this, and actually one of the most successful ones is having a good program. If you have a good idea that really sparks the imagination of a teacher, then the teacher will normally come up and say, "Oh, that's really good. I'd love to be involved with that." I've given lots of talks about different educational programs in the past, and the teacher will come up and say, "That's really great. I really want to do that." And then about 10% of them actually do. And so the biggest problem is not inspiring the teachers, but retaining them, and that comes, unfortunately, that's something which is extremely hard to predict. We had various success in like I said, different projects by paying the teachers. So if you pay the teacher to do some part of an educational program, and you say, you're providing us with feedback on the program, so we're going to pay you for your time to do that. And then, with the idea that at the end, they'll incorporate it into their classroom resources and their curriculum and their teaching. That has been successful in the past. And that was actually a program that I was involved with called Space Awareness. We did that, which you may have been involved with. I'm not sure, but you may know about. Yeah. So that was the approach we took to that, and that was quite successful. Also, having something that you give to teachers can also help. So if a telescope is a terrible thing to give a teacher, because teachers are not astronomers, and they'll go, "Wow, this looks amazing. I want to use this telescope. Oh, it's really complicated. And actually, I can only use it when it's dark, and the students are at home when it's dark. And so we need to get lots of permissions to get the students into the classroom." And so a telescope is a terrible thing. But if you give them something that they can use in the classroom, that ties to your project somehow. So I don't have one on me, but I actually 3D print sterile models. I have little models of the little robot, and every time I do a workshop, I give them one. I give the teacher one, and actually 2 weeks ago, the teacher stuck it onto they've got a TV screen in their class, and they've stuck it to the top of the TV screen, which is really nice. So it's a constant reminder of your program then. So having a good project, having something which really captures some educational need. So it can be something that the teacher maybe struggles to teach. It can be something which it just has a really good visual appeal. It can be something that's beautifully designed. And then having something that you can give to the teacher that not only reminds them, but makes them want to use it.
Thanks for that. Are there any more questions coming? Don't be shy. Oh, I see Uliana. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Thank you for a wonderful talk. I wish I knew about some of this project in my high school. Yeah, they're really great. I have read a practical question because I have no idea where to get funding for the project like this. Maybe you have some, I don't know, hints like where to find it.
So what do you need the funding for?
I don't know. I think making a good website is needs some money, for example, or promotion. I don't know.
So there are funds for small projects provided by different groups. I don't actually know. I tend to know about UK-based groups, but the Institute of Physics in the UK provides funding for things like that. So maybe there are similar organizations in Poland which provide like small amounts of money, like 500 euros. I don't know what that is in zloty, and that sort of amount of money, which I imagine is what you're talking about, sort of relatively small amounts, but the amount of money that can make a big difference to you. There's the Royal Astronomical Society has funding available for educational projects, and they're normally up to like £1,000. And I don't know who can apply for that. I think you have to be a fellow though. But maybe there's something similar in Poland for that. But all of the projects that I've showcased, we always provide the telescope use for free. Nobody gets charged to use our telescopes for educational purposes. And I make that is the very minimum that I think that we can provide, because and as I said, my goal for this education program is to introduce space and astronomy to groups that wouldn't normally have that opportunity. And if you introduce a price tag, then it immediately discounts a huge amount of people. So if you want to use our telescopes and you have an idea for a project, please let me know, and I can maybe talk you through some free options, free options for creating websites and things like that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Thanks for that. Do we have any more questions coming? I have a question as well, maybe then. So I know that education group from our program is working on the problem of relationships between educators and students. And I think like the projects that you showed like have quite like big potential for actually changing this dynamic between students and teacher, and like just taking people out of this like typical roles.
Yeah,
so I
hierarchy.
To just maybe elaborate on that a little bit more, like how what to do to maybe just challenge this dynamics that we are used to.
Yeah, actually, a lot of the projects that we have are not traditional education projects where you have a teacher at the front who just, and you have a class. A lot of them are mentoring projects, and in those situations, the teacher or the educator doesn't necessarily teach. They sort of guide and coach, and the exploration is done by the student. So they provide them with opportunities to ask questions, but they don't provide them with the answers. And I think that's why the students really do excel quite so well in these projects, because they really do take the ownership of, and they're normally in investigations, but they take the ownership of that and they take it extremely seriously. And that is a really wonderful thing for not only for them as growing to be scientific literate people, but also for their own confidence as well. And they have a different sort of respect for the educator then as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Josh or Ella, I don't know who was first. Maybe Ella will be first because she's the mentor of the educator group, so maybe she will just follow up on my question, and then I will give the floor to Josh. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Josh was first, but actually my question is a follow-up on yours, so if I may use the opportunity, that will be great. Thank you so much, Edward. It was fascinating, and very, very stimulating for the mind. I just wanted to follow up, like I said, on this question. So when you talk about educators acting as mentors, guides, using coaching methods, or maybe supervision or tutorial methods in the Oxbridge parlance, I'm just wondering, do you mean by the educators, do you mean people who are trained by the organizers of those for you and your team, or are they the teachers who the regular teachers who take on different roles, and how do you train them? That's a very kind of practical thing, because with the traditionally trained teachers, it's not an easy step to make. And
thanks for your question. And it's actually a big mixture of people. So we have high school students. We have a broad spectrum of different projects. I don't train anybody to be a mentor. So the people who run the program, they've done that already. They already have, in most cases, they either already have a group of students that they work with, or they have a class that they regularly teach that they want to incorporate an investigation into, or they're going to be running a workshop for a few weeks, and so I don't teach those. And the educators are wildly different. We have some programs where the educators are teachers and that the audience are students, high school students. We have other programs like the one in the Pan-African one, where the educators are astronomers. They're professional astronomers, and the students are undergraduate students, and some graduate students, some postgrad students as well. So there's a big variety, and there's a big variety of programs as well. But the majority of them are these mentoring programs. We also have some programs which are more like teacher training programs. So the teachers, need to learn something, or the program is to teach the teachers about astronomy and some aspect of astronomy. And as part of that, they use robotic telescopes, and they're trained on how to use LCO. So for the purpose of using it with their students. And in those cases, the educational partner has a curriculum, and they say, right, this is your curriculum. This basically, if you want to teach astronomy we've got one who's in Australia, and they know the curriculum. They say, right, any school that wants to do astronomy, you do our course, and you can just teach your students this. And then they teach them the astronomy part, and then they do an investigation with robotic telescopes using LCO. So if you had experience with teaching astronomy, or if you had experience with teaching data analysis, that's something that I would love to explore, is somebody who's teaching maths and doing statistics on a light curve, so you've got something that's varying with time. And fitting a model to it. It's all maths. It just happens to be about something out in space. But you can get the data, and it adds an extra dimension a little bit. It makes it more memorable to the students.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
That's very useful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Josh?
Hi, yeah. Also, just thanks again, Edward, for the lecture. It was very interesting. I'm really interested in citizen science and the whole kind of phenomena of citizen science, of engaged, bottom-up communities, engaged in a subject, using. Maybe I'm wrong in thinking that there's always a kind of a technology or something involved. I'm thinking of sort of Arduino stuff and measuring pollution, or with the use of the telescopes and things like that. And I'm very jealous of citizen scientists, of having access to these things, to be able to kind of create a community, to measure, to understand, and to analyze together, because sometimes it's quite hard to get people together. I'm mentoring the Healing the City group, and a lot is talking about bringing people together and understanding, but we're you know, at a little bit of an impasse of trying to think of ways of doing that in a kind of lasting way. So I'm just always, it's more of a confession than a question, of thinking, you know, what is it that we can kind of gather around? Science is this subject that can be measured and made tangible, and or, you know, not science is the subject, but I'm just wondering if you've come across any projects, or, you know, scientific ones as well, that maybe didn't have a kind of technology at the core of it, but people were still brought together and still kind of enthusiastic.
Yeah, very definitely. There are, and I can't remember any of the names, which is extremely frustrating, but there are actually quite a lot of citizen science projects that are low-tech ones. I've seen them in the past that they don't need anything except you go out with something that's like 20 centimeters square, and you count all of the, you put it down on a piece of grass and you count all of the things in the piece of grass, and that sort of thing. And I think that is wonderful, because you can be 5 years old and take part in that. You can be like 100 years old and take part in that. You can do it where there's no Wi-Fi. You can do it, you know, at any time, and something like that. And it's I can't remember any of the actual specifics of any projects, but I have definitely heard of low-tech citizen science projects like that. And they do exist, and it would be amazing if you could think of a low-tech one that involves, you know, picking litter, for example, and you know, it's I think that would be, this is off the top of my head, but I've often wondered about, when I'm with my kids, I hate McDonald's, and my kids always go, oh, look, there's McDonald's. And they go, McDonald's is junk food, it's disgusting. I go, oh, look, it's McDonald's. And their grandparents that take them there. And I say, look, McDonald's is, somebody's come from McDonald's and they've left rubbish on the floor. And I always think there would be a good citizen science project to like walk around the area and work out the density of litter and see if McDonald's had, you know, is it just me saying McDonald's is terrible and the people that eat there are throwing all their litter everywhere, or is it just that those areas which have McDonald's have a higher amount of litter? Anyway, that's my citizen science project, low tech one that I could create. But yeah, I mean, be creative, and something that involves, you know, you need to have some standard measurement, and you need to have record keeping, and you need to have a question, and then you can get lots of people involved.
Great, thank you.
I'm muted, so thank you so much. I think there is time maybe for the last question. Is there anyone who wants to be the last one to ask question to Edward? Okay, so maybe I will be the last one. Then I think that, you know, you showed like so many projects like that you have participated in, and like in the beginning, like different platforms, different opportunities for people to engage in education and science and so on. And I feel like when, you know, even when I'm like scrolling through the internet, there's like so many like courses, like all these like different educational offer, and sometimes I get quite overwhelmed by that. And also like, okay, you can participate in so many different things on like so many different like levels of engagement and so on and so forth. And I'm wondering, like, is there any like kind of educational need that is still like not addressed? Like, what's missing? We have like such a huge offer of like educational projects and opportunities, and like, what do you think? Is there anything that we still don't have?
Yes, I think there is. I think there's always, because everybody learns in a different way, and there's a lot of projects that are terrible, And there's a lot of projects which are behind paywalls, or there are resources behind paywalls. I love seeing innovation and creativity. I love seeing new things, not because they're new, but because somebody had the idea of creating something that fitted their educational need, whether they're a teacher or whether they're a hello cat, or whether it's no Zoom call is complete without a cat. Photobombing. Yeah, so whether you're a teacher or whether you're a student, you have educational needs, whether it's a need to share some educational idea, or to teach some part of the curriculum. You still have that need. And your students, you know your students the best. And if you're not an educator, you can talk to educators and find out things that they find challenging, and why. And why they're a challenge. You know, is it because it's conceptually difficult, or is it because they can't find good resources? Is it because the experiments that they do are boring and the kids hate them? And in those situations, you have the ability to really create something new, or to find something which fits. There are lots of things. I'm very much in favor of not creating something when something good exists. I've shut down several projects that came to the end of their life because something else was better. I'm very happy with that. I'm very happy that, you know, for a period of time, I supported a resource that is now no longer used, because it's been superseded by other things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for your answer and for being with us today, and for your talk. It was really interesting and really inspiring, I think, for all of us.
My pleasure.
Yeah, if that's okay for you, can I ask for the slides? Maybe I can just share it with the group,
sure.
So they can access it later when they feel the needs to do it. Okay.
And please do contact me if you have any questions, even crazy ideas. I would love to hear any ideas, and I'm happy